I think we can all agree that the Rise of Skywalker was a disappointment. It seems to be a drastic and last-minute course correction, coming out of the loud reactions to The Last Jedi, as far as I remember. Regardless of what you think of him, it's fair to say that J.J. Abrams was rushed through this project, and it feels like it's a movie that exists because some suit's bonus depended on it sticking to its release date. So, when the previous script that Colin Trevorrow was supposed to direct got leaked, there were a lot of discussions about which version was better. But people were comparing the bad movie we could see against a leaked script that was only available as someone retelling the screenplay they read from memory. That's not ideal. Let's say ideal. Even though I'm not the biggest fan of the sequels, I am curious enough to want to see that alternative version that never was. Everyone loves an underdog, I guess. So I thought I would do this dramatic reading of the leaked screenplay by Colin Trevorrow and Derek Connolly. I'm not going to use music because I'm already flirting with getting Disney's lawyers all bothered up. But feel free to dust off your John Williams CDs and put them in the background. Let's see what all the fuss was about. A long time ago, in a galaxy far, far away. The galaxy, once a tapestry of countless twinkling stars, now languished under a spreading darkness. The iron grip of the First Order had reached across the cosmos, squeezing the life from star system after star system. Only a handful of scattered planets remained free, isolated islands in a sea of tyranny. On those worlds, and the countless more under the First Order's heel, traitorous acts were met with a swift and final judgment: death. Supreme Leader Kylo Ren, determined to suffocate the growing embers of unrest before they could ignite into a true rebellion, had silenced all communication between neighboring systems. A veil of enforced silence had fallen, leaving worlds alone and afraid. But in the shadows, a flicker of hope remained. Led by General Leia Organa, the Resistance, battered but not broken, had planned a secret mission. It was a desperate gamble, a daring strike to prevent their own annihilation and forge a path back to freedom. The view drifted backward, pulling away from the star-dusted void and into the glowing, rectangular maw of a docking bay. Two sharp points of a massive space station framed the scene, a testament to the industrial might of the First Order. This was the Kuat orbital ring, a steel collar around the neck of the moon below. Inside the cavernous bay, a First Order transport settled onto the deck with a pneumatic hiss. A wide platform descended, revealing a motley collection of droids. As they dispersed to their assigned tasks, a single graphite-colored BB unit carefully split off from the group, rolling with a quiet purpose that belied its mechanical nature. The BB unit navigated the sterile corridors of the orbital ring, its spherical body swerving to avoid a brutish, hulking labor droid. The maneuver was clumsy, scraping the unit's side against the metallic wall with a harsh grating sound. The droid's head tilted down, as if inspecting the damage. A fresh scuff marred its dark paint, revealing a flash of brilliant orange beneath. It was BB-8, deep undercover. A familiar, worried, "uh-oh," chirped from his vocabulator, and he quickly rotated the telltale orange mark out of sight, hiding it beneath his head. Miles below, on the surface of the Kuat moon, A comm device blinked to life in a cramped, cluttered room. The space was a den of recycled Imperial gear, wires and old tech piled high. Rose Tico, her face adventure-worn and her eyes battle-ready, snatched the device with gloved hands. "BD-8, you in?" she asked, her voice a low, urgent whisper. An affirmative series of beeps answered her. Rose glanced up through a jagged hole in the roof. Above, the orbital ring hung in the sky like a spiked bracelet, studded with the menacing forms of star destroyers. "I need eyes on the checkpoint," Rose commanded. Back on the ring, BB-8, tense and anxious, plugged his scomp link into a terminal. Through the viewport beside him, the Kuat moon was a silent, glowing orb. The sun just beginning to crest its horizon. On the surface, a hollow monitor grid flickered to life, the images blurred and scrambled. Rose strapped a pair of electrogoggles over her cracked leather flight helmet. "Attaboy," she murmured. Through the lenses of the goggles, the images unscrambled, resolving into a clear view of a security checkpoint. The HUD in her display zoomed in, focusing on an approaching dropship. "Here they come," Rose said, her knuckles white on the console. The dropship touched down in a canyon of white and blue sedimentary rock, kicking up a blinding storm of silver sand. A line of First-Order stormtroopers shielded their eyes as the craft's ramp lowered, spitting out a new batch of migrant workers. They were a desperate collection of beings from all corners of the galaxy, aliens and humans alike, who had submitted to the First Order's rule in exchange for a promise of safety and a few scraps of food. The stormtroopers, with practiced, brutal efficiency, funneled the migrants toward a large weapons detector. Hidden among the ragged crowd, his features obscured by dusty rags, was Finn. He kept his head down, his eyes scanning the scene. "Checkpoint," he muttered to the robed figure beside him. "Keep your head down." The figure, whose face was hidden in the shadows of a deep hood, gave a subtle nod. A bottleneck quickly formed at the scanner, the air filled with the cacophony of a dozen different languages as the ragged aliens barked and shoved. A massive beast-like Drovian slammed into Finn, shoving him forward. "Whoa, hey," Finn said, holding up his hands. "No trouble here." The Drovian was not interested in peace. With a guttural roar, it grabbed Finn's neck in a single massive hand and lifted him effortlessly off the ground, bearing a set of vicious teeth. "Trouble," Finn choked out. "Trouble!" Suddenly, the robed human stepped between them. "Easy, pal," a familiar voice said. It was Poe Dameron. He pulled a dried, three-eyed pectofish from a leather pouch concealed beneath his robe. "Here," he offered to the Drovian. "I couldn't finish it." The Drovian's eyes fixed on the fish. It dropped Finn in a heap and snatched the offering, devouring it in a single bite. As it did, Poe's hand rested casually on the concealed blaster at his hip. Finn scrambled to his feet, rubbing his bruised neck. "Thanks," he gasped. Poe shot him a tense, warning look. They moved forward with the line, closer to the scanner. "How will we know if BB-8 hacked the mainframe?" Finn whispered. As if in answer, the weapons scanner blared an alarm. Stormtroopers immediately converged on a mangy Godel, dragging him from the line. He pleaded desperately, pointing to his own metallic horns, but his protests were silenced by the sharp crack of blaster fire. "We'll know," Poe said, his jaw tight. He and Finn stepped into the scanner. At that exact moment, the machine shuddered, its lights flickered, and it clicked off with a heavy thud. "We lost power," a stormtrooper barked. "Hold the line!" Troopers stepped in front of the dead scanner, their blasters still smoking. Finn and Poe exchanged a look, the tension thick enough to taste. High above on the orbital ring, BB-8 Scomplink stuttered and spun. A nearby stormtrooper dropped a crate of heavy spanners, the metal clattering loudly across the floor. BB-8 startled, a bead of droid sweat forming on his casing. Down at the checkpoint, a trooper smacked the side of the scanner console. With a groan, it powered back up. Poe and Finn were still standing inside. There was no alarm. "Go on, get moving," the trooper grunted, waving them through. They exhaled in unison, their lives still their own. Passing through the border wall, they entered a vast migrant settlement. It was a vibrant, chaotic melting pot of cultures. Modular housing units were painted with colorful symbols from each worker's homeworld. The entire colony existed in the shadow of the orbital ring, which loomed above, connected to the planet's surface by a massive power shaft plunged directly into the moon's core. The shaft glowed with a constant blue light, the lifeblood of the First Order fleet. Poe's eyes scanned the crowd until he locked onto a furry alien watching from a machine shop. It was Biskova. The alien subtly tapped his own cheek. "That's our guy," Poe said quietly. As they moved to follow Biskova, Finn noticed a suspicious figure in the crowd. A Tusken, its face wrapped in the traditional coverings. The Tusken watched them, its gaze lingering as they disappeared inside a small hut. The inside of the hut was filled with the smells of alien cooking and the sounds of domestic life. A big-cheeked, hairless alien baby bounced in a makeshift swing made from a sea cow's stomach. Biss's partner, Dalkova, was brushing an unappetizing-looking roast with melted fat. Rose emerged from behind a beaded curtain in the back of the room. "You said 2 days," she said, her voice tight with frustration. "I've been here 2 weeks." "This place doesn't seem so bad," Finn observed, looking around. "Good people," Rose conceded. "Terrible food." She unrolled a canvas map onto a small table. "This is our access point." She placed a holochip on the map, and a 3-dimensional image of the orbital ring and the power shaft sprang to life. "This power shaft delivers raw ore to the orbital ring," Rose explained, pointing to a spot on the holographic shaft. "A detonation directly into the energy stream here will cause a chain reaction." A blinking red light shot up the holographic shaft, triggering a series of simulated explosions that tore the entire ring apart. "And take the whole thing down," Poe finished, a grim satisfaction in his voice. Finn looked up through the broken roof at the real orbital ring, where a dozen Star Destroyers were currently fueling. "Along with their new fleet," he added. "How do we know they haven't detected BB-8's signature?" Poe asked, ever the pragmatist. The alien baby began to cry. Rose picked up a rattle and shook it absently. "There's a lot we don't know. That's why I voted for the other plan." This is when we second-guess the plan? Right now? Finn shot back, his nerves fraying. Rose stuck a finger into the alien baby's mouth, silencing it. We can take out the enemy's fuel source and be light years away before they know what hit them, she said, her voice regaining its focus. But we have to move now. Poe and Finn exchanged a look. Rose had clearly been down here for too long. Okay, Poe said, clapping his hands together. Let's blow this thing and go home. They moved through the colony, a determined trio heading for the massive base of the power shaft. In the deep background, the mysterious Tusken followed. BB-8? Poe spoke into his comm. Don't worry, I'm alive. Unlock the power shaft doors and get ready with that shuttle. On the orbital ring, BB-8 detached his scomp-link and sped down a corridor toward the maintenance shuttle dock. At the base of the power shaft, 3 space gray mech troopers stood guard. The fight was short and brutal. Poe took down the first with a single, efficient blow. Finn and Rose dispatched the other 2 with electric shock prods, the troopers collapsing without a sound. Poe unlatched a device from one of the mech troopers' belts and tossed it to Finn, who scanned it against the door panel. The door hissed open, revealing a massive cylinder of pure rushing particle energy. The raw power of it was deafening, the light blinding. They were dwarfed by its scale. We'll have 20 seconds before detonation, Poe yelled over the roar. Give or take. Give or take how long? Rose shouted back. Poe handed out 3 flying thermal detonators. Nice and easy, he said. Just like pitching Palmetto stick. We didn't have that, Finn started to say, but Poe had already activated his charge. Oh, we're going now. Poe underhand tossed his charge into the stream. It was instantly caught in the particle flow and rocketed upwards. Rose threw hers next. Finn, panicking slightly, chucked his like a live grenade and scrambled back. BB-8 bombs are away, Poe said into his comm. We'll meet you at the relay point. In a forgotten corner of the maintenance dock on the ring, BB-8 rolled into the droid slot of a tiny old shuttle. The ship's systems powered up with a groan. Poe, Finn, and Rose exited through a maintenance door at the base of the power shaft, expecting to make a clean getaway. Instead, they found themselves face to face with a platoon of stormtroopers and mech troopers, their blasters all aimed directly at them. Drop your weapons, a stormtrooper commanded. From the nearby village, migrant workers craned their necks to see the commotion. Among them, the mass Tusken lurked, watching. Poe glanced up at the orbital ring, anticipating the massive explosion. Distraction in 3, 2, 1, now! He yelled, diving and rolling for cover. What? Nothing happened! The sky remained silent. The ring remained intact. In the command center of the orbital ring, a First Order officer rushed to the steely Admiral Vaughn. A screen graphic showed a small contained blast within the power shaft. Blast shields have contained the explosion, Admiral, the officer reported. All systems stable. Vaughn looked down at the glowing Kuat moon below and scoffed. Their outdated tactics are pitiful. Back on the surface, Rose and Finn stared up at the undamaged ring in disbelief. Any second now, Poe muttered, his confidence wavering. Suddenly, a high-pitched wail cut through the air, spinning them around. The hooded Tusken stepped forward. From its gloved hands, blades of brilliant blue light flashed to life. It was holding a dual lightsaber. With a speed and grace that was breathtaking, the Tusken became a whirlwind of destruction, taking down everything in its path. The stormtroopers, so menacing moments before, were cut down with terrifying efficiency. Finn, Rose, and Poe ducked for cover, firing their own blasters until they were surrounded by the smoking bodies of their enemies. In the sudden silence, The Tuscan's mask fell to the ground. It was Ray. But this was not the girl they had last seen. She was a grown woman now, her eyes filled with a power and strength that was both familiar and new. "What are you doing here?" Finn gasped, stunned. Ray spun, her lightsaber a blur as she blocked a laser blast from a trooper they hadn't seen. Her dark robes fell from her shoulders, revealing a battle-ready outfit of all black. "A simple thank you would do," she said, her voice calm amidst the chaos. She threw the double-bladed saber like a boomerang. It sliced through the remaining troopers in a deadly arc as she ducked behind a power regulator. She rose just in time to catch the weapon as it returned to her hand. It was a new lightsaber, one of her own design, forged from the shattered pieces of Anakin Skywalker's saber, and her own trusty staff. She wielded it with a deadly grace. "You shouldn't have come here," Poe yelled at her from behind a generator. "You'd rather be killed?" Ray shot back, deflecting another blast. "If it means you're safe, yeah." "Now's not the time," Ray said, her focus on the fight. "Definitely not the time," Poe agreed. Ray raised a hand and with a powerful force push sent a pack of 8 troopers clattering to the ground. The migrant workers, who had been watching in stunned silence, now pointed at Ray in awe. A reverent whisper spread through the crowd. The children began to cheer, shouting a word they all knew, a word of hope. "Jedi! Jedi!" More stormtroopers flooded into the square, but now the migrants, inspired by Ray's presence, blocked their path. Some threw rocks, others swung with hammers and tools, creating a makeshift barrier to protect their savior. It was the spark of revolution. "Ray, we gotta go," Poe yelled, pointing to the incoming troop transports and TIE fighters that were swarming the sky. Ray hesitated, her gaze fixed on the people she'd inspired, wanting to stay and fight alongside them. "I have to help them." "Not here," Poe insisted. "Not now." She knew he was right, but it killed her inside to leave. She reluctantly followed her friends through a blast door. As Finn moved to follow, his ankle was grabbed by a fallen stormtrooper, his helmet blasted open. Their eyes locked for a brief, shocking moment of recognition. It was a face from Finn's past, a ghost from another life. Finn pulled his leg free and ran, but the encounter had shaken him to his core. Aboard the Quad orbital ring, an officer raced to Admiral Vaughn, his face pale with fear. "What happened down there?" Vaughn demanded. "The last Jedi is with them, sir." Vaughn's confidence evaporated, replaced by a cold dread. "Alert the Knights of Ren." Well, that was something all right. What did you think? Should I continue? This took way longer than I thought, so I'm only going to bother with the rest if enough people want to see it. And if Lucasfilm, let's not go there. So, it's a cliche, but hit the comments to let me know if you're interested in the rest of this motion comic, animatic, whatever this is, and ring the bell so you know when the next one is up. Yeah? That's it from me. Bye.